I think we have everyone here that's going to be here, so we'll start the meeting of the Education Committee. I appreciate everybody coming out tonight. We have myself, Mr. Ford, Mr. Davis, Mr. Harsh, Mr. Ferguson, Mr. Walsh, and Mr. Bowles. Landon had said he wasn't going to be able to make it tonight, so I know he wanted to be here but couldn't. Is Jason not going to be able to make these, or are we going to have another representative from the board, or should?
No, sir. He works out of town, and sometimes he's, but I haven't heard from him today. I did send him a reminder this morning, but I hadn't heard from him. But, like I tried to tell him, do the best you can to get here. But I mean, he knows everything we're doing is what I'm saying.
I know, I appreciate that, but we have a rule on committees: if you miss 2 in a row without asking to be excused, you're off the committee. And I think this is probably the 3rd one in a row he hasn't been at. I know he wasn't here last time. So if he's not going to, all I'm asking, if he's not going to be able to do it, see if somebody else maybe can.
I'll inquire.
And I'm not trying to come down hard on him. I know he's got a lot on his plate too.
He works out of town.
I know.
12 hours a day.
I know. And there was some talk about them moving too, wasn't it? Is that going to happen? I'd heard something about this.
He resides in the county.
Well, I know that, but he was talking about moving, possibly, I thought.
Okay. He has not expressed that to me whatsoever.
I apologize. I know he hasn't, but I know
he's moved from the home he presently
lived in. Right. Yeah, I knew that, but there was some other things I think discussed too. But anyway, that's just eavesdropping in church.
I got you. Well, you know that I'm not too accustomed to quizzing my bosses too much.
I know. Just try to.
If they need to tell me something, I'm sure they will.
I'm sure they will. All right. Our agenda tonight, we have here, basically it's Dr. Sadfield tonight. The quarterly financial report, he said that Angie just hadn't had time to get that done yet.
She hadn't closed
so early in the month, but he needed us to meet as early as we could. There's some things he's got going on some of the federal grants and things. So that's the main reason that we're here. So if you'd approve this agenda, we'll just have to delay the quarterly financial report until we get that, but I think everything else on here we can take care of. The minutes from the April 6th meeting are on the back of your agenda sheet here. We need to approve those. Is there any corrections, additions, or deletions to those? Did you get one? Right there with the sign in, I'm sorry. Did y'all not get one? Okay. Bill, do you need one? Yeah. Sorry, I should have made sure y'all knew to grab them. Give Ethan one, yeah. Did you get one here?
I made a copy of the email. I actually remember this time.
Okay.
Delete it.
Did we see any corrections that need to be? Give you a second to look through it. while you're reading over that, we are without a secretary. We do need to, at some point in time, be thinking about electing someone else as secretary. Mr. Hart, you have a question? Do we have a motion to approve and a second by Mr. Ford? Any other discussion, anything anyone else see? Being none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? I think we've got all your mics live. I'm gonna keep them live so we're not having to worry about turning them on and off with this smaller group. I think it's just easier to do that. Certainly if you don't think it's on, you wanna be recognized or you wanna talk to the person next to you and not be heard by everybody, just get your button and that'll turn it off.
Actually, if I might say, if you could just toggle yourselves on and off, that will eliminate the feedback that happens if all of them are turned on.
Oh, okay. Is that where it's coming from? Really? Huh. Wasn't supposed to do that. He hasn't fixed it yet. Okay. Okay. Coming to a channel near you. All right. So forget that. If you want to be, want to speak, push your button. Like I said, the quarterly financial report will be at the end of the year. It takes a lot longer to get a lot of things in and it put together, and I think it's a reasonable request not to try to do it today. Doc, you want to talk to us about the stadium progress, how it's coming, where it's going, everything on schedule?
I actually brought, a handout,
Okay.
because I knew that everybody likes a picture. So it speaks 1,000 words. Actually, that's a handicap.
You look like RoboCop tonight.
Just a little explanation on that. Like I said, a picture's worth 1,000 words. I figured there'd be some interest in that. The first page that you see there is the stadium itself. And in the lower left-hand corner, you can see that there are 20 handicap wheelchair spaces. That was part of the plan. We wanted to make the stadium ADA compliant. And you'll see that there are handicap ramps on each end of the stadium. So there's 20 wheelchair spaces for a total seat capacity on the home side of 2,518 seating spaces. So when you turn over to the second page, give you a good idea of what you're looking at. This is a side view of the stadium. You can see the walkboard in front, and it is 18 rows. Actually, the old stadium that was demolished was 16 rows. So the home side capacity is at or more than of what we took out.
Height-wise, does the top of it, is it about the same as the other, or is it coming in lower or higher?
What we had to do is we had to do some engineering work. But if you can look at the very right-hand side of the page, that second reading, it says there's a top row seat height of 18 feet and 9 inches. And that is, we had to shoot the elevation of the concrete pad.
Right.
We wanted to get that seat flush with the bottom edge of the press box.
Okay. So basically, it is the top will be pretty much where it is now.
Right. Sit about like where it is. That's the game plan.
Okay.
And those runners that you see, those braces, are on 6-foot centers. So that'll sit on that concrete pad, and every 6 foot you'll have those braces that are in there. It's an all aluminum stadium, so never has to be painted or it never rust. That's the game.
Even the superstructure is aluminum.
Yes, sir.
That's great.
Yes. So that's a good diagram there. If you turn over to the third page, that is the visitors side. You can see that it is ADA accessible as well. There's handicap ramps on both sides. And of course, that all the aisleways now have handrails. I didn't mention that on the first diagram.
Are they center handrails, center of the aisle?
And those aisleways, I think, are 48 inches now.
Sounds right.
That the existing stadium was 32 and they will not comply. You'll see that there are 8 wheelchair spaces on the visitor side. Total capacity visitor side has been drastically reduced from what you saw before the demolition. It is 712 seats. And that stadium will go from the 30-yard line to the 30-yard line. So that concrete pad has been pulled. You walk in there and see that, trying to get the home side.
When did they pour in?
When you go tomorrow.
Okay. Typically, they let it cure 7 days before they start working on it.
Your experience serves you well, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
7 days.
Okay, so they're ready to start actually erecting on that side.
Well, we gotta get the materials.
Oh,
We delivered on the
okay.
19th.
Oh, okay. You think they'll get the other concrete poured this week or next week? Or?
I don't think it's gonna happen tomorrow. We'll have to double the size of the crew and get no rain. It's gonna slow.
I was well pleased with how they did the demolition. It seemed like it went a lot quicker than we had
It did.
ever
And
thought it would.
They did a great job.
Yeah.
I mean, they've done a good job.
Yeah.
It's just that you've gotten some rain, it's slowed
Right.
some things down. And then the last page is a side view of the visitor side, and you can see that it is 10 rows high, and it was formerly 14. So that would be a good idea. So that back height that we were talking about, that top seat is 11 feet, and 5 inches where the other home side is 18.9.
Yeah.
So I thought that was you'd be interested in seeing
Appreciate that.
keeping that.
What is their timeline they're looking at now? I mean, what's the drop dead first time it needs to be
Yeah,
used?
they promised me that we would be in the stadium by August the 27th. That is the second game of the year. The first game is an away game.
Right.
The Jamboree is the 13th. I would say that's going to be a tough push, but we'll see where we are and what we can do with that. I mean, we may have seating finished on one side and not the other. It may be bring your own lawn chair, not quite sure how that's going to play out.
It should go a lot quicker than you think it will if they have decent weather. Yes, sir.
Well, the rumor was always, I was always told it was 5,000, 2,500 on each side. That's not possible because it was 16 rows on the home side, 14 rows on the visitor side. But both of the stadiums went from the 10-yard line to the 10-yard line. So I would assume that was maybe about 4,000. We're going to about 72. 27. So we're going to lose some seats, but the learning exactly. Yeah, we would be paying we'd be putting a lot of money into open seating that people want to use. So we think we can do it.
I think so.
And then you can bring in portables, sometimes.
You always got your railbirds.
They don't want to sit in
They ain't gonna sit down if you made them.
I think my wife's one of them. She just sits in a folding chair. I told her that when we get the stadium fixed, she would try out the bleachers. She said, I kind of like where I'm at. But I think it's something another thing is we've had some people in the community that has helped. Mr. Lewis Beasley has Charles Beasley. They worked on hitting us. We had to fill some dirt around the visitor side. We hauled dirt, donated services, Craig Warren donated topsoil stuff for us. So we've had some people in the community that has helped us with some odds and ends that are outside of just the direction of the statement itself. So we've had a lot of interest. I know Mr. Beasley was there the other day, and sarcastically he said, "Well, you got your money's worth out of that old one, didn't you?" I said, "Yes, we did." And he just admitted it. It was a long time coming, from a safety aspect.
Cool. All right. Anybody have any questions on that? Okay, move on to what you were wanting us to do tonight with the
Yeah,
grant.
and Mr. Joel, and thank y'all for your understanding. We just haven't closed our books. If we brought you a financial summary tonight, and then 2 weeks later brought you another one, you'd call me a liar and say, those don't go, that don't square with the numbers you told me 2 weeks ago. And there's no way they would. So it's best not to confuse you. And when we close out, we'll give you those closing numbers and they'll be accurate. Okay. Mr. Jewell, thank you so much for allowing us to be here. One of the things that the federal government has done in the third wave of federal money, what we call ESSER 3.0, they have added some new requirements to this wave of money. And one of it is stakeholder communication. So there's no better place than to explain to you the regulations of ESSER 3. If we had a nice PowerPoint place, I'd give you a PowerPoint presentation, but since we don't have that, I just copied that off for you. Okay? So on the first page, this is federal stimulus funds. It's called ESSER 3.0. We were awarded a little over 1 point. Did y'all get everything you needed?
Yeah, I was just thinking you might want to either sit at the mic or stand at the podium with that mic.
Okay, I'll
so
sit
that
right here.
it goes through the sound.
Is that good?
We can hear you better. Yeah, that helps. Well, just also, for the recording.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
I gotta get used to this equipment here.
I know. Well, it's working better than it ever has.
But the third wave of federal stimulus money is called ESSER 3.0. We have been awarded a little over $2.1 million. That first bullet there is it's based off of Title I funding. So it's basically your poverty rate of your students, and the number of students that you have. What's different from this pot of money from the other is that it's required by law that 20%, right at $500,000, has to be a set aside to address learning loss. A minimum of that much has to be set aside. The comptroller has had some, Mr. Jewell, I think we were at Gallatin together that day.
Yeah.
And this is some comptroller language, reminds us that these are one-time funds. They're not reoccurring, and one-time funds should be used for one-time expenses. The funds have to be obligated by September 20th, 2024, and the use of funds must emphasize learning loss due to COVID, in-person learning, and school facility improvements. Comptroller continues to remind us that we want to use these funds in a responsible manner so that they reflect the greatest amount of good for the greatest amount of need, and that these funds are audited annually by the comptroller, by the Office of the Comptroller. When you turn to the second slide, which is slide 13, the plan requirements are that spending your money must address safely reopening schools and sustaining safe operations due to COVID, supporting and meeting the needs of students, supporting the educator workforce, which would be teachers, educational assistants, and the like. That also part of the plan requirement is have stakeholder engagement. That is what we're doing here this evening. That includes families, students, teachers, principals, district administration, school staff, and even advocacy organizations. And that they will have monthly implementation checks. We have to have and we do have a health and safety plan, and that health and safety plan has to be updated each 6 months in order to receive your money. And your final plan has to be posted on your school district website. Turning to page 14. So what are the allowable components of the plan? And the blue things are things that we are really working toward and trying to do in our school district. Just got off a conference call with the commissioner this afternoon, and one of the biggest initiatives that the state is promoting is high dose, low ratio tutoring for students. And we're looking to do that during the school day. There's a lot of research behind that. Is if you try to do it in before and after school programs, students that you're trying to target, they don't stay late after school, do they, Ethan? And they don't come to school early. So one of the things that we want to be sure that high dose, low ratio tutoring takes place during the school day. Also that we use those funds for summer programming. I think most people will tell you, I think we've had a very successful summer learning camp that we had 20 days. I know that Chris Gregory had a good article in the paper last week where the commissioner visited our work, and we've had a lot of positive feedback from our families on that. Mr. Gully was here. He was actually one of the principals for that, and they just did an awesome job. And if he was here, he could tell you a lot of good things about that. Also, that it's focused on literacy and math textbook adoptions, being sure that we have high quality curriculum and materials in the content area of literacy and mathematics, and that we also have supports for high school students, such as our dual enrollment. We want to really invest, being sure that students are getting college credit, whether it be at a 4-year or a 2-year or a TCAT, that they're getting dual enrollment, they're getting college credit at the same time they're getting high school credit. And then also looking at special populations, mental health supports, and being sure that we address students that are experiencing homelessness. If you turn over to the next slide, page 15, allowable plan components, again, is educator retention, development of principals and their assistants, literacy and math coaching for teachers, possibly having floating staff that's shared like tutors between schools, using that money with our educational assistants, our paraprofessionals, and our interventionists. Some of these funds could be spent for temporary class size reduction. You couldn't do that every year. Remember, they're one-time funds, but it's something that you might look at, to help address learning loss for a short period of time. Investments in technology, such as hardware and software. Mr. Ford, I think we talked about this the last time we met, that every student of ours next year will have a one-to-one laptop computer, even our first graders. So we're really excited about that. Also, the comptroller talks about there are things that we can do with facility improvements, but they discourage, and it will be hard to approve new construction. So if you're renovating or adding on, then those have a better chance of being approved than if you tried to build something from the ground up. And then also any data collection and reporting systems would be allowable. So the last thing that I would leave you is a survey that we gave to our principals and teachers before they left school. And we would like for you to give us a little feedback on answering questions that along the way. We had our teachers, principals, do this on the laptop And if you don't have a pencil, tomorrow we'll take this feedback as well. So you can just check there with your parent. How's that? You know that? Okay. You need pencil? I happen to be prepared. John Oliver was my scoutmaster, and our motto was, what was it, Mr. Ferguson? Be prepared. Mr. Ford, be prepared. Mr. Walsh, you pen? Everybody got one? Okay. Let me just walk through that right there. So the stakeholder type, I actually wrote in county commissioner. You can check which school are you located in. I just put district there on that. And then if you turn over to the second page, it says in the next two questions, you will rank the following district programming considerations 1 through 10. So you check out what your first choice is to your 10th choice. So on the first page, you know, how would you say if we had $2 million, how would you say our money could be best used? So would you say summer learning program, including credit recovery, that we've already done one round of this summer? High-dose math tutor that I described to you a minute ago, or instructional coaching and ongoing professional development, especially for our assistant principals who are our curriculum leads at each school, high-quality reading and math curriculum, or student health services such as we have nurses at every school. So if you could just check your top choices there on that page, and then when you go to the third page, then you would do the same thing for those. So you get 10 picks between the two pages. Yeah, you get 10 picks between. That's right. Yes, sir. That's right. And I just copied this from the handout there. And then on the second page is class size reduction, educator retention, school facility improvement, technology improvements, and mental health supports for students. So if you take just a minute and check those, and then on the bottom of the third page, there's also, don't put your name on it. I don't need your name, but at the bottom of page 3, there's an open-ended question. How can your school best utilize federal stimulus funds to benefit the greatest amount of students? Again, using the greatest amount of good, which is fiscal resources, for the greatest number of students. So having your input is part of the stakeholder engagement. And
you're thinking about $2 million, first, second, third, fourth, fifth choices, but not all the $2 million are going to go in your first choice.
right. Thank you.
The priority.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So, you know, where do you say our greatest amount of need is? Like some of these things are, you know, the summer learning camp is required by the state. They put that in statute this year. And the state gave us some money, but we also had to use some federal money to match it as well. And we've talked here in past meetings, Mr. Ford, remember we've used that second wave, that ESSER 2, you know, we're putting windows in the middle school, ceiling tile in the middle school, putting water filling stations we're replacing all the water fountains with water filling stations to reduce the spread of germs and disease. And also that we're replacing all the paper hand towel dispensers with hand dryers. Yes, sir. And there's, of course, that's more sanitary, but it also will save us a great deal of money over the long run where we're not purchasing the paper towels. Right. True. Yeah, our janitors will, I'm sure, find some other use of their time. While they're doing that, Mr. George, the roof is completed. We were holding back retainage in the amount of $44,000. And, Mr. Cochran discovered some joints in the gutters that had not been adequately repaired. And so we called them back. They came out of Louisiana and repaired those. So we're ready to close the books on that job.
Like for the repaired lawn, grass. Grass is seeded very well and come back out, yeah.
They did a good
That
job.
all looked really, really good. I thought they did an excellent. Whole project turned out really well. They did a first-class job on it. It really, not only did it improve the weatherability of the building, it improved the looks of the building tremendously.
And remember, it has a 20-year warranty.
Yep, 20 years goes by before we can turn around now.
Thanks, sir. Thanks, sir. You keep that. Oh, I will.
Well, that's nice of you.
What
You
about
can't
that?
make one.
County Commissioners wisdom is big on you.
We never have any pens in here. We're always scrambling for pens. Do you think you're gonna have any budget amendments for this month? Okay, didn't expect any, just thought I'd ask.
I will have a big one after the July 5, because our revenue is just estimated. So we get our July 5, and then we've got to adjust some salaries, that came in, we'll get a budget. I got more things, anybody else want to?
Lay it on the podium.
Chairman, that's all I have. Thank you very much.
Anyone have any questions, for Dr. Satterfield? I know the board and yourself have put in innumerable hours on this COVID response and things, and you've had a plan in place when others were still talking about what needed to be done, and certainly appreciate all your efforts. Any other business, commissioners? Public comment? Madam Public, would you like to make a comment? There you go.
I do actually want to say something because I have not been able to make it to a few of the actual school board meetings. And as a parent, I know I was there for some, made some speeches and stuff, but I haven't been back the last few to say how much I actually appreciate the work that they did do through all of this, and for listening to the parents and people who were at the meeting speaking. So I didn't get a chance to really come to one of those meetings lately to say thank you. So I'll take the chance while I can right now to say that I think y'all did a wonderful job. I think just like what Mr. Jewell just said, y'all started things out way early, had plans going. You did a solid job of what you did. I appreciated every bit of it. My kids did phenomenal. They actually had the best grades that they've ever had in school, and they've always had good grades, but they had principal list pretty much the entire year, which I thought was a good thing for doing that. And I really just wanted to say thank you very much to the board. I know they're not all here, but I know he'll pass it along because I never did get to come back really and make a thank you to them, but we do really appreciate it because they've done a wonderful job, I do believe.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments. I don't see any need for us to come back as a committee once this report is finalized, because we'll take it up with the full body. So what we'll do is just maybe bring it in work session and go over it, and let Budget and Finance look at it, and we'll take it to the full body. Any other comments, questions? Mr. Walsh?
Make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn. Mr. Ford has a second. All in favor, say aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Sit here for the rest.